Welcome back, Global Mafia, to the home of the non-mainstream news, conspiracy theories, and disassociating from that indoctrination the system tried to give us. Today, we got a special one. We're going down the rabbit hole of the Mandela effect. I know everybody got day one or they know for sure it was something different, and now the companies say it never existed. Let's get to it.
Global TV subscribe.
You've heard of the Mandela effect, right? Where groups of people remember certain things differently? For example, there's a group of people who swear that Fruit of the Loom always had a cornucopia. But there's another group of people, including the company themselves, who swear that it never had one.
The line in our current reality is hi ho, it's home from work we go. They never ever said it's off to work we go in the current reality that we're living in.
Richard Simmons allegedly had no headband, wore no headband during any of his recorded shows.
Text that upset me the most. This timeline really did the Monopoly Man dirty because they took away his monocle. I'd give anything for a box of Cheez-Its, but since they don't exist, I'll settle for the real deal, which is a box of Cheez-It. Smokey the Bear wants to keep the world from burning down. Wrong, his name's actually Smokey Bear. Luke, I am your father. Wrong. It's no, I am your father. I love Febreze as much as the next gal, but if you want to be in this timeline, you have to take out one of the E's.
So far, Fruit of the Loom, cornucopia, all the way. I know I have plenty of them. I know Luke, I am your father for sure. Wasn't even a big Star Wars fan. Monocle on the man from Monopoly.
You know what a cornucopia is? Because when I was younger, I was shopping with my mom at JCPenney and I asked her what was on the Fruit of the Loom logo and she said it was a cornucopia, and I'm so grateful for my incredible imagination for making up the cornucopia that has never existed in the Fruit of the Loom logo. I've always loved the Laughing Cow's nose ring until I found out it doesn't exist. Another especially the sunglasses, which I apparently made up. I love Jiffy peanut butter, even though the company is trying to gaslight me into believing that it's always been called Jif. Iconic, iconic, iconic. Too bad the microphone was never a part of the iconic. Loved when Curious George would swing around from his tail, except for that he never had one. That's okay, because Mickey Mouse has had a tail all along. What he never had, however, was suspenders, which is odd since I have memories of him snapping.
Of the Mandela effect, but in movies. Probably the most famous example is the legend of the movie Shazam plays a genie. People have collectively said they have memories of watching this movie. The problem is, it does not exist. The closest thing you'll get is Kazam, where Shaq plays a genie. Probably my favorite example of the Mandela effect in a movie is when people collectively forgot the Scarecrow is wielding a gun in The Wizard of Oz. It's not like an Emerald City fantasy gun. He straight up just has a revolver. And these scenes still exist. They never took it out. You could watch The Wizard of Oz today and it's still there. The recent one that's been growing in popularity is from the SpongeBob movie, where it has this scene where SpongeBob is playing the guitar. So what exactly is the problem? This is the guitar he actually plays, but if you ask anybody to try to describe this moment from memory, they will likely describe this. So
I remember the guitar.
Movie Risky Business. Every Halloween, someone dresses up as Tom Cruise from this specific scene, and they always add a pair of sunglasses, but he does not wear them in this scene. In Star Wars, C-3PO has a still gold. That is not the case. A lot of the examples of the mentally people remembering the quotes wrong. Again, in Star Wars, everyone likes to say, Luke, I am your father, but in reality, it's no. Actually, a famous example of this comes from The Silence of the Lambs, where many people seem to remember a line in which Hannibal Lecter says in a very creepy tone, hello, Clarice.
Nope, that line exists. It's my mom's favorite movie. She used to say this stupid, silly shit all the time. Hello, Clarice. This shit exists. What is your Mandela effect that you know for a fact that you'll bet your house on, you'll bet your life on right now? Let me know. And where you think it originated from? It's too strange. I'll give y'all my narrative at the end.
At all. In Snow White, the evil queen never says mirror, mirror on the wall. She says magic mirror on the wall, which is something I learned.
So this is Max Laughlin. He's just 13 years old and considered to be one of the smartest kids alive. And when he was asked about the Mandela effect, he gave an answer that connects memory glitches to the fabric of reality itself.
There are other universes that are next to ours, and this actually relates to my theory of the Mandela effect and how the particle accelerator altered the weight of one electron and therefore destroyed our universe and shifted us into the universe that's directly next to it, and therefore things are different in this universe.
How did it actually change?
Well, it never changed. We changed.
Max believes that the culprit is actually CERN, or more specifically the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland. He says that when scientists smash particles together at nearly the speed of light, then they may have ripped open reality and shifted us into a completely different timeline.
And this was, you think, when CERN Super Collider did its experiment?
Large Hadron Collider, yeah. We thought our universe would implode, and then it didn't, and we're like, oh, it's okay. Well, maybe it did implode. We just instantly got shifted to another universe.
So what do you think? Did Pikachu always have a black tail? Did double stuff always have just one F? Did a cornucopia ever exist?
A whole thread of Mandela effects that I've never heard about, but when you look them up, they just didn't exist. I have a couple for you. You're going to be equally as upset and fucked up by it, I promise you. Richard Simmons allegedly had no headband, wore no headband during any of his recorded shows. Like, if you look it up, it specifically says never worn one. When we all know he was well known for doing that. Like, they think we're stupid. Your fucking kidneys are closer to your chest now in the pictures,
I always thought they
in
were
the
way down
diagrams,
here.
in the anatomy diagrams. They are basically in the middle of your chest, not on your lower back. No. The Monopoly guy never had a monocle. The Monopoly guy.
He had
we
one.
all know.
I think he had
They're
one.
trying to tell us he never had a monocle. It's too much. And an honorable mention is that Thanksgiving has always been the third Thursday. I don't care what you tell me. I don't care what
that
anyone tries to tell me. It was always the third Thursday, and you cannot convince me otherwise. Please let me know if I'm just actually crazy or if y'all remember.
Let's revisit some of our favorite Disney Mandela effects. First one is pertaining to the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland. There's a very famous line that this cat says. Many people remember it as, "We're all mad here." But the real line in the current reality that we're living in is most everyone is mad here. So do you remember most everyone is mad here or we're all mad here? Because the line "we're all mad here" has never been said in the movie. The next one is from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. We all know the Hi-Ho song, but do we really? Many people remember the line from the song, "Hi-ho, hi-ho, it's off to work we go." But what if I told you that in the current reality that we're living in, that was never current reality is hi-ho, hi-ho, it's home from work we go. They never ever said it's off to work we go in the current reality that we're living in. The next one I have for you is about the intro during a lot of the movies, you know, where it's playing like the theme music and they're showing like this little logo up here. A lot of people remember Tinkerbell kind of flying by and using her little magic to dot the I in Disney. Well, it turns out that in our current reality, that never happened. You never see Tinkerbell in the intro. So if you remember seeing Tinkerbell, you're not from this reality. Up next, we have Cruella de Vil. How do you remember her name being spelled? Do you remember it being spelled DeVille or DeVille? Turns out there's never been an E at the end in our current reality, so if you remember an E, then you probably jumped out of the same parallel reality that I did. Okay, for Mickey Mouse, there's actually two. The first one being, do you remember Mickey Mouse having suspenders or no suspenders? Turns out in our current reality, Mickey Mouse has never worn suspenders. So if you remember suspenders, you're not from here. And the other one is about Mickey Mouse having a tail or not. So do you remember Mickey Mouse having a tail or do you remember Mickey Mouse having no tail? A lot of people say that they remember Mickey Mouse having no tail, but in the current reality that we're living in, Mickey Mouse has always had a tail, even back to the Steamboat Willie. This is a favorite for me. So there's a very famous line in Snow White. It goes, "Blank mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" Do you remember it as mirror, mirror on the wall or magic mirror on the wall? Most people remember it as mirror, mirror on the wall, but that line was never said in the movie. It's always been magic mirror in the current reality that we're living in.
Didn't know there were so many Mandela effects. I'm from the timeline where there's mirror, mirror on the wall. We might not be aligned. Let me know. Magic mirror, mirror, mirror. Spam it up. Where we at in the comments? And how do y'all think these timeline jumping and aligning work?
Scene where Baloo kind of dresses up like kind of feminine and has a coconut bra and a coconut mask. But what if I told you that actually never happened in our current reality? It was never a thing. It was always this. He always had just the mask, but he never wore a coconut bra in the current reality. Alice in Wonderland, we have Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Do you remember them having flags coming out of their hat or propellers? Most people I talk to, including myself, remember Tweedledee and Tweedledum having propellers coming out of their hats. Turns out, in the current reality that we're living in, it's always been flags. And lastly, we have the sword and the stone. It seems like it should be called the sword and the stone for a reason, right? Because the sword is in the stone. So to me, I remember the sword being in a stone. But it turns out that in the current reality that we're living in, the sword has always been in an anvil. So if you remember the stone and you don't remember the anvil, you probably jumped out of the same parallel reality that
My thoughts on the Mandela effect sit, okay? It's too compelling to ignore, but at the same time, there are too many... What are we exactly saying the narrative that would explain it is? That's where my hesitation comes, but it's compelling. And so I decided to take a look. 1986, 1977, 2012, 2010. I would like the movie Shazam. And I know this one's hard to see, but between Shaq's playoff performance against Chicago and Shaq's movie Shazam, which, yeah, I know, but still, that's 1996. And then you have here Jiffy, I think it's it looks like 78, Jiffy peanut butter. Jiffy peanut butter. And then I will say, I was noticing that the pictures sometimes were different than the words Jiffy. And we have Looney Tunes with 2 O's, and this was posted by a ton of newspapers, the same article. This is from 1981. Looney Tunes again. I don't know exactly when this is from. I can find it though. Stouffer's Stovetop Stuffing. Now you can't see this, but this is from 1997, and this is by Ed McMahon and his checks. One of those big Ed McMahon checks in the words of LeGrand.
This is why I say you always need to go to the library and look at physical copies of things from before the 1950s. But beyond that, this is what confused me about the Mandela effect. That's why I think it's maybe some government trying to control and see how much of history they can get away with editing and seeing if we don't go berserk or not. Beyond that, let me know what y'all theory is, because this kills the timeline theory. This is on our timeline, and the history in the paper, the physical writing, says what we think.
Caps and jeans, and State Treasurer Richard Moore turned into a Tar Heel version of Ed McMahon. He held a giant check. Yes, but what if Ed McMahon's check comes and we're not there? We'll be out of Florida lottery ticket Fernandez enters a knock on his door to find a grinning Ed McMahon standing there with a giant cardboard check. This is one about Richard Simmons and his headband. The first half looked about as pretty as Richard Simmons and headband. America has seen since Richard Simmons snatch means anything. It could absolutely just be misspellings and misprints, especially these older ones, without the advantage of the internet to spell check and things like that. It absolutely
making video.
Happen. But a lot of these are also like photocopies of printed media, which would make it very hard to make those things a little harder to scrub, harder to edit, harder to modify if they were trying to edit,
unless it's the CIA.
Edit things. So when I am on my balcony and I am gardening and I am just, I'm going to be continuing to try to find more things like this because
about something and I need you to help me collect evidence on the matter. Post a picture of an animal right here. I need you to tell me in the comments what kind of animal this is. It starts with an O. This isn't like a trick question. I just need you to type in the comments what you think this is before you watch any further. Okay, have you typed it out? Cool. If you put that it's an orangutan, you're wrong, apparently. This is news to me, okay? But I swear this is a Mandela effect. I think I have discovered a Mandela effect because I follow the Hogle Zoo and they've been posting about this cute new baby orangutan that they have, but every time they post about it, they put an orangutan and the zookeepers pronounce it as an orangutan. And I was like, they're missing the G. It's an orangutan. And so I Googled it. Even Google states orangutan. But I have evidence that it was orangutan at some point, okay? Because I have not only done my research, but I've also conducted a social study amongst my peers. and have shown them this picture and asked them what this animal, every single person has said orangutan. And not only has every single person I've asked said orangutan, there also used to be a product based around orangutans, okay? If you were a kid in the 90s, there was an orange drink that was called Tang. Again, I'm gonna insert a picture of it. It was an orange drink called Tang, and on the carton, it had an orangutan because it was marketing the fact that it is Tang juice and it had an orangutan on it.
Right, so that can get confusing. That right there was our deep dive with the Mandela effect that I promised y'all. Did we just get more lost or did we get some more clarity? What's going on? I definitely have some tang, and that's an orangutan. I don't know what orangutan or tune or whatever that is. But with that being said, let me know what your favorite one is. What one will you go to war about? And I am your humble host, Cash, capital K, $ for the S. Shout out to the Globvl gang members who requested this. Shout out to the OG Globvl gang mafia.